The story starts in your great-grandfather's glory days where we see some demi-humans are being told to hurry up with their work. But then a merchant named Banaza thanked them for their work and offered them some money so they could have a good meal. Initially, the worker tried to refuse because they were demi-humans, but Banaza didn't care about that. He insisted they take the money, and they soon thanked him for being so kind. However, the other merchants thought Banaza was strange for giving money to demi-humans, but Banaza himself didn't understand why they cared so much about someone's race. His assistant, Quinn, also understood what he was trying to do but told the workers that not many people think like him. Suddenly, Banaza felt something weird, and his body started glowing. Then he disappeared and found himself in a whole new world. Everyone in the room thought they had successfully summoned the hero they were looking for, but Banaza didn't get what was happening. He thought there must have been a mistake because he was just a regular merchant. Then an old grandpa called the cardinal explained that they summoned people like Banaza to help fight the Dark Army. They soon gave him a glowing orb to test his powers, while the cardinal explained that the summoned candidates will receive divine abilities. As he placed his hand on the orb started to glow. However, to their surprise, they discovered that Banaza possessed the stats of a regular person. Assuming their summoning had failed, Banaza admitted he wasn't a hero and requested to return to his world. But before anyone could respond, another candidate with maxed out stats stole the spotlight, drawing everyone's attention. While everyone flocked to the impressive new candidate, Banaza was left alone, confused as to why nobody was listening to him. Eventually, he found himself in a carriage, reminiscing about his encounter with the king, who informed him that the gate he entered through was a one-way trip, leaving him stranded in this unfamiliar world. However, acknowledging their error, they offered Banaza shelter in the forest to the north, under the condition that he kept their mistake a secret. During their journey to the forest, Banaza attempted to converse with the demi-human driving the carriage, asking if he was a slave of the king. However, the demi-human explained that slavery didn't exist in their world, emphasizing the equality between humans and demi-humans. But when Banaza asked about their destination, the demi-human closed the window, signaling an end to the conversation. After 20 days of travel, they finally reached the forest, and the lizard man presented Banaza with a magical bag, a gift from the king containing everything he needed to survive for a few days. However, the lizard advised against staying in the forest due to rumors of the Dark Army's presence. Banaza bid farewell to the lizard and checked his bag, pulling out a sword. Suddenly, 3 slimes emerged from the forest and attacked him. However, he quickly realized the sword was nothing special as it broke after just a few hits. Despite his broken sword, Banaza managed to defeat the slimes. Suddenly, a strange symbol suddenly appeared in his stats window, something he'd never seen before. Curious about the symbol, Banaza soon realized that he could communicate with a system that had somehow become his guide. It showed him the spells he had acquired and revealed that his bag was set up with a monster-luring spell, explaining the sudden appearance of the slimes. Suspicious of the king's intentions, Banaza quickly realizes that the king wants him gone. With the system's help, Banaza removed the spell from his bag and decided to find a safe place to stay. However, the system warned him about malicium, a harmful substance left by your mother that contaminated the forest. The system, however, offered to purify the forest using a third of his mana, and Banaza agreed. Suddenly, a massive magic circle appeared, and the forest began to cleanse itself. Soon after the purification spell, the system informed him that he had leveled up multiple times, which shocked Banaza. Meanwhile, at the castle, the princess reprimanded the king for mistreating Banaza, reminding him of the rumors about the Dark Army's camp in the forest he was sent to. Despite her concerns, the king remained calm, not caring about Banaza since he didn't become their hero. Suddenly, a cleric arrives, revealing that they found signs of the highest sacred magic being used. The king immediately assumed their hero had employed the purification spell, hailing him as one of the greatest in history. However, the cleric clarified that the hero was actually in the south, while the purification occurred in the north. Back in the forest, Banaza discovered that he had reached level 367, despite not having slain any monsters apart from the slimes. Puzzled by this, he speculated that experience could also be gained through simply practicing magic. Wondering why the strange symbol hadn't changed, he asked the system to show his mana, only to find it fully restored in a matter of seconds, which made him think that it was very low. Concerned about people recognizing him in the city, a system suggested using a transformation spell. Intrigued by the idea, Banaza agreed and transformed into another man after initially appearing as a girl. With the system's guidance, he learned he could use teleportation magic, which he used to teleport back to the kingdom. Happy to have his magic, Banaza wondered if it was common in this world. But before continuing, he attempted to teleport back to his old world, and it proved futile, so he resolved to earn some money. He headed to an adventurer's guild to seek missions, where the attendant explained the registration rules. Trying to conceal his true identity, he introduced himself as Fleo and soon receives his rank badge, which he was advised to keep with him. While scanning the mission board, Fleo noticed a girl seeking an escort to the Della Zava forest, offering payment. However, due to the forest's reputation for being infested with demons, none of the adventurers were willing to accept the job, except for Fleo, who happily volunteered, assuring her that he could teleport her there safely. Upon hearing Fleo's words, everyone was left stunned, unable to comprehend how he could wield such advanced magic. This made a knight named Balerosa intervene, warning Fleo to stay away from the girl. Suspicious of Fleo's suspicious claims, the other girls deemed him a creep. However, Fleo insisted on proving his abilities and suggested that they go with them. After going outside, Fleo executed his teleportation spell, transporting them to the distant Delavisa forest. The girls were astounded, which made the mage Bolano question whether Fleo was a high arch-wizard. However, Fleo humbly admitted that he was just a beginner adventurer, and Balerosa then apologized for doubting him. However, the little girl soon notices the sudden disappearance of Melitium in the forest. Wanting to share his deed, Fleo was quickly warned by the system not to disclose information to a demon. Suddenly, the adventurers drew their weapons, surrounding the girl as Balerosa revealed the girl's real identity. The girl, now revealed as Fenris, the younger sister of Fengaril, one of the four infernals, explained their purpose of observing the enemy. She proceeds to release her Melitium, which soon affects everyone, except for Fleo. Unfazed by this, Fenris attempts to devour them, but Fleo swiftly dodges and teleports the others to safety. But despite Fenris' threat of devouring him, Fleo refused to back down, determined to make his mark in this unfamiliar world. He braces himself for the impending battle, resolved to use all his spells to defeat Fenris. As she charged, he erected an earth wall for defense and ensnared her in a whirlwind. Despite her escape attempts, Fleo also employed a gravitational spell, rendering her completely immobile. The system then suggested subjugating Fenris with a spell, but Fleo refused, rejecting the idea of bringing slavery to this world. After exhausting all her mana in an attempt to escape, Fenris surrenders. Convinced that a fallen warrior had no place in this world, she told Fleo to end her life. However, Fleo expresses his reluctance to kill her, disregarding her demonic nature and emphasizing his refusal to harm a surrendered foe. Moved by Fleo's words, Fenris reverted to her human form, only to find herself in her peak form. Seeing this, Fleo quickly covered her with his cloak and promised to let her leave if she promised to stop fighting humans. However, due to severe exhaustion, Fenris suddenly fainted. Reflecting on his newfound mastery of high-level magic, Fleo pondered his extraordinary abilities. Upon awakening, Fenris acknowledged her defeat and expressed gratitude for Fleo's mercy, recognizing that she would have been finished if she were to lose to someone else. Promising never to harm humans again, she declared Fleo as her master, though he quickly declines the offer. Despite her insistence, Fleo stood firm, permitting her to travel freely. Refusing to accept Fleo's rejection, Fenris threatened to end her own life, prompting Fleo to accept the offer, allowing her to accompany him on his journey. Overjoyed by his decision, Fenris pledged her loyalty, stating the instinctual bond between wolves and their masters. Meanwhile, in the castle, the king asks about the battle with the Dark Army, bewildered by the defeat of his knights. The hero, however, attributed their failure to the knights' weakness, citing their break in formation upon encountering a demonic beast. However, despite being the hero, the king learned that the knight had fled the battlefield altogether, further frustrating him. Back at the castle, the hero analyzed his stats, confused by the lack of improvement despite a month of training. Convinced of his capability to defeat only weak magical beasts, he questioned his lack of acquired skills. His servant Suya then arrived for duty, providing a welcome distraction. The following day, Fleo and Fenris ventured into the city, intending to register at the Adventurers Guild. Mistaken for a couple by a passing merchant, they entertained the idea to avoid arousing suspicion during their travels. Fenris even joked about becoming his wife, expressing her desire to remain by his side forever. Upon reaching the guild, the attendant asked Fenris for her name, which almost caused her to reveal her true identity before Fleo intervened. He then registered her under the alias Riss. Suddenly, an urgent mission was announced, which was to eliminate a herd of psychotic bears in the north, with a significantly increased reward. Despite their initial hesitation, Fenris urged Fleo to accept the quest, confident in her ability to handle the bears alone. Teleporting to the designated area, Fenris eagerly prepared for the hunt, only to stumble upon a group of girls surrounded by the bears. Fenris suggested ignoring them, blaming them for being weak. However, Fleo hesitated as he witnessed the dire situation unfold, realizing the girls were no match for the ferocious bears. He cast a lightning spell which decimated most of the bears, with one last remaining continuing to attack Bolano. However, Fenris swiftly took it down, saving their lives once again. Grateful for his intervention, the girls expressed relief at Fleo's safety and voiced concerns about the risks he faced. Fleo then introduced Fenris as his travel companion, however, left her disheartened as she had hoped to be introduced as his wife. Suddenly, a bear emerged behind Fenris, but her fierce glare intimidated it, causing it to collapse in fear. Taking pity on the trembling bear, Fenris decided to make it her pet, shocking the girls. Activating a restraint spell, Fleo transformed the bear into a cute creature they named Sabi. Following the chaos, the girls formally introduced themselves. Baileri as the archer, Balerosa as the heavy knight, and Bolano as the group's sorceress. Balerosa then requested for Fleo to train them in order to fight alongside the hero. She explained how the hero had isolated himself, refusing to fight until finding someone worthy to be his right hand, prompting the king to order everyone to train to his level. However, feeling Fenris's jealous aura, Fleo quickly clarified that she was in fact his wife, which instantly lifted her spirits. Grateful, the girls requested another favor, to sleep at the house provided by the guild for safety, to which Fenris eagerly agreed, while suggesting that she sleep beside Fleo due to their marriage. The scene then shifted to the demon castle, where the demon Euliminaz reported to the demon lord about the purification spell cast by a single person. This prompted the demon lord to order the person's immediate capture, curious about the powerful individual behind the spell. The next day, Fleo was confused when he woke up next to Fenris. However, she quickly reminded him that they were married, which made Fleo remember their talk from the night before when Fenris said she was ready to be his partner in everything. This flustered him and he tried to sleep in the hallway, but Fenris said it would look weird to the other girls, so he stayed in the room with her. Then Fenris made Fleo change his clothes, but to their surprise, Balerosa suddenly walked in on them, which embarrassed everyone. Later, Balerosa tried to fight a big boar but got scared and ran away. Fenris then told Bolano to protect the others with magic, but Blomas's arrow didn't help either. When their magic ran out, they all ran away, leaving Fleo thinking about how hard it would be to train them. After that, Fleo showed them their rooms, telling everyone that he bought the house with the money they earned from hunting boars. It was time for lunch, where Fenris made food for everyone, but to everyone's surprise, she served them raw meat. This prompted Fleo to take over the cooking, but Fenris still argued that fresh meat was best eaten raw. Everyone enjoyed the meal that Fleo's cooked, and Fenris even said that she'd eat anything he made, including cooked meat, which surprised everyone. When they went back to the guild, people were amazed they kept bringing back more boars. While waiting to get their payment assessed, Fenris told Fleo that she wanted to go somewhere but didn't want Fleo to follow her. Suddenly, the person at the guild, Leolith, told Fleo that he had something to tell him. Leolith then told Fleo that his deeds were the talk of the guild and even the town, which made him realize that he might have been attracting too much attention. Leolith explained that there was a request for Fleo to help the hero, and if he agreed, the king would make him an honorary knight. Even the other adventurers were impressed by how Fleo and Fenris could defeat so many powerful magic beasts together. Leolith wanted Fleo to help the king as he has the chance to use his power to save the world. While Fleo thought it might be the greatest honor in this world, he didn't have any reason to fight the demons, so he turned down the offer. Moments later, he was met with Fenris, who was in bad shape, but she tried to hide what actually happened. Turns out, she tried to learn cooking on her own but found it very difficult, as she wanted to take cooking lessons to win Fleo's heart. Meanwhile, the hero heard about an adventurer who was defeating many magic beasts, and he wanted to recruit them as his right-hand person to fight against the Dark One. However, a month later, Fleo had already rejected the king's offer several times. Fenris wanted to threaten them to stop asking, but Fleo suggested that they focus on training. They then found Blossom working hard on the farm, but Fleo wished she put that effort into training. On the other hand, Fenris tried to get Bolano to hit a target on a tree, but she felt sorry for it. Fleo then gave her a magic ring to increase her magic capacity, and Fenris warned her not to put it on her ring finger. Not long after, Balerosa got into trouble, calling out to Fleo for help, but Fenris rescued her instead, seeing through her act of pretending to be weak to appeal to Fleo. However, during dinner, Fenris managed to impress everyone with her cooking. She then revealed that she had been attending cooking classes while Fleo went to the guild. Fenris used to only care about her strength, but now she found joy in doing other things too. This time she made curry for Fleo, following her teacher's advice that it's the key to a man's heart. Fleo loved it, making Fenris ecstatic. However, they don't realize that someone outside watched them in shock, surprised to see Fenris with humans, as the once feared woman warrior of the Dark Army was now questioned whether she had betrayed them. She then confronted the demon Euliminaz, who claimed to be surveying the area. Fenris was upset when Euliminaz hinted at coming between her and Fleo. However, Euliminaz realizes that Fleo was remarkably calm despite her presence. What puzzled her even more was her inability to assess Fleo's power level, unlike with others. She was shocked to learn that Fleo was responsible for purifying the forest, even eliminating Fenrir's brother and his unit. Turns out, Fenris knew this but believed her brother's fate was his own fault. She admitted to being charmed by Fleo's power, choosing him as her husband. The other girls overheard their conversation and were shocked to learn Fenrir's true identity. Eulimenes, however, acknowledged Fleo as a serious threat to the Dark Army for turning Fenris against them. Intrigued by Fleo's power, Eulimenes proposed a mock battle, secretly planning to eliminate them both while doing so. Fenris, however, saw through her intentions but still agreed to the battle. As soon as they went outside, Eulimenes attacked with magic spells from above and below, but Fleo quickly countered with a force cancellation spell. Fleo captures Eulimenes, ensuring that she wouldn't target Fenris, prompting her to surrender. The next day, after realizing Fenris' true identity, the girls decided not to report her to the kingdom. Fleo was surprised but grateful for their loyalty. However, Eulimenes soon returned with the Dark Army's legion of dragons, terrifying the girls. Fleo was excited to see dragons for the first time in his life, as they existed in his old world, but he'd never seen them before. Using his impressive holy magic, Fleo struck down several dragons, stunning Eulimenes, who retreated in disbelief. Blossom wished she tried throwing your mother at the dragons, so Fleo suggested she try throwing the one she's holding. Using augmentation magic, he enhanced her mother, helping her earn the title of Dragon Slayer. Inspired by this, the girls asked Fleo to help them do the same, but the dragons had already run away. Meanwhile, the Dark One couldn't believe Fleo, a mere adventurer, could wield such powerful magic. Following these events, Fleo then put up a barrier around the house to detect demon attacks. Fenris, however, got upset thinking about the annoying cat, but Fleo reassured her. Blossom, on the other hand, couldn't stop staring at her screen, overwhelmed by earning the Dragon Slayer title. This caused the other girls to be motivated to train harder daily. The title was so precious as it gives someone the chance to rise to be a noble. However, Balarosa was in tears, feeling behind as she didn't earn the title. She hoped that by achieving it, she could restore her family's lost noble status and let them live in the capital again, like when her father was a knight. Just then, a guy appeared in the forest claiming to be looking for a friend of his. Balarosa was skeptical of this guy, as he was lightly equipped in a forest full of magic beasts. He claimed to be looking for Fleo's wife, making Balarosa suspect he was from the Dark Army. She demanded to know his business with Fleo and pointed her sword at the guy. The guy, however, confessed to being from the Dark Army but said he was only there to check on Fenris. Before leaving, he left a message for her and revealed his name as Gozo. When Fleo and Fenris arrived, Balarosa quickly told them everything. Fenris instantly recognized the guy and horrible fake name. Fleo then explained that they came because his barrier detected the Dark One. Fleo then reveals to Balarosa that the guy she met was the Dark One, shocking her. Fenris also confirms this, explaining his real name was Cole. Balarosa soon trembled in fear as she raised her sword to him, expecting revenge from him. The next day, Gozo was invited to their home, shocking Balarosa. He revealed that his visit was related to Eulimenes. Fenris, however, assumed that he was there for revenge, but he surprised them by asking Fleo to join the Dark Army. Fleo calmly declines, shocking Gozo. Gozo assumed that Fleo opposed the humans since he lives in the forest. However, Fleo explained he didn't want to fight and admitted that he wasn't from this world. He then questions the reason for their war, but Gozo reveals it's unlikely that anyone knows why the war started 500 years ago when the first Dark One arrived, as he, as the current Dark Lord, has no interest in ruling the world. However, Gozo then releases a surge of power, declaring himself as the king of the demons. He will not allow someone who poses such a threat to the demons to fall into human hands, ordering Fleo, advising him to join the Dark Army. But Fleo calmly declines him again, stating that Gozo has overestimated his abilities and that he doesn't intend to pick a side. Impressed by Fleo's determination, Gozo acknowledges his resolve and decides to leave for today. Despite leaving, he assures them that he hasn't given up on recruiting him and comes back the following days. At the castle, the king learns about a mysterious demon visiting Fleo frequently. Furious, he plans to send soldiers to capture Fleo, but the princess advises against it, suggesting they listen to Fleo first to avoid driving him to the Dark Army. However, the king dismisses her suggestion, which was also supported by the hero, who insists on using force to make Fleo obey their orders. Meanwhile, at the demon's castle, Eulimenes warns Gozo about the risks of visiting Fleo's house so often alone. However, Gozo reveals that Fleo is far more understanding than the human king and is determined to convince him to join their cause, believing it's their best chance to gain such a powerful ally. Eulimenes reminds Gozo that their soldiers are awaiting his orders, but Gozo hasn't made a decision yet about when they will make their move. It turns out Eulimenes is concerned because some demons have started to speak ill of the Dark One for visiting Fleo so often and wonders if Gozel's visits are worth the risk. Back home, Fleo reveals his plans to sell gear made of dragon scales and shows his prototype. He's determined to make it a successful business to support themselves. But Fenris worries if Fleo's decision to refuse working for the king is the right one, as it would earn them more money and allow him to use his abilities to the fullest. This made her wonder if he's avoiding fighting demons because of her, but Fleo explains it's more about not wanting to fight anyone if he doesn't have to, which made Fenris admire his kindness. Suddenly, the golden-haired hero arrives, and Fleo stops Fenris from attacking him. The hero, however, gives Fleo two options, which was to become his subordinate or be considered as an informant to the Dark Army, which will prompt the hero to defeat him then and there. The hero is pleased with his ultimatum, thinking Fleo was speechless in awe of him. However, Fleo apologizes and refuses to choose his side in the war, which the hero deems traitorous. The girls point out the hero's nonsense, but the hero threatens them, saying they'll only be free if they help him convince Fleo. This made him get serious and suggested leaving to avoid fighting. Fenris is open to the idea, and the other girls agree to go too, realizing that fighting a war is just not right. The hero, however, points out they can't escape the soldiers surrounding them. But Fleo shocks everyone by using a teleportation spell to make them all disappear, along with the house and fields. As they reappear near a town west of the royal capital, everyone is amazed by Fleo's teleportation. Meanwhile, as Gozel arrives, he sees everything gone and blames the humans, causing him to launch an all-out attack on the kingdom. Back with Fleo and the girls, they're relieved to be far from the capital, with Balarosa especially relieved as the Dark One can't find her here. Fleo then apologizes for putting Fenris through all of it, but she's just happy to be by his side. She then declares that she'll make a feast to celebrate their new home, and everyone rushes inside. As the Dark Army begins its invasion, setting villages ablaze, the humans try to defend themselves. In the northern stronghold, a knight reports to the king that the Dark Army is on the verge of breaking through. The king wonders why the hero isn't acting, but he's informed that the hero is hiding in the south castle. His advisors suggest gathering all the mages to cast a purification spell, but the king hesitates due to the huge risk. However, they urge him to act quickly before the demons breach the stronghold. Meanwhile, Gaul observes the battle and decides to retreat upon knowing the humans will use a purification spell. Back at Fleo's home, he returns from his trip to the town, explaining his plans to make money by selling gear made from dragons. Blossom and Bilary offer to help by selling vegetables and breeding horses respectively. However, Belano and Balarosa feel useless but are comforted by Fenris, who promises to support them. So Fleo encourages them to focus on getting stronger in their free time. At the castle, the king's advisors report the Dark Army's retreat after the mages cast the purification spell, which will protect the kingdom for 3 months. However, they've exhausted all their magic reserves. The princess, realizing that the king is unfit to lead, takes charge and removes the hero from his position. This made the advisors question how they'll handle the Dark Army without a hero, so she decides to seek guidance from the oracle. A knight then goes to tell the hero that he has been kicked out due to the princess taking control. The hero, angered by the news, tries to assert his importance to protect the kingdom, but is ignored and left outside by the knight. That evening, Fleo expresses his gratitude to Fenris for helping him survive, noting he wouldn't have a peaceful life without her. The next day, the girls encourage Fleo to go on a date with Fenris, assuring him they can handle things in his absence. Though initially embarrassed, Fleo agrees and Fenris eagerly looks forward to their date. In town, Fleo asks Fenris if she wants anything, intending to buy her something as thanks for her support. They find a piece of jewelry which Fleo purchases, thinking it suits her well. Upon returning home, Fenris hugs Fleo, leaving him flustered until he realizes that she's asleep. Despite giving her some space, Fenris follows him, making it difficult for Fleo to sleep. At the castle, the hero breaks into the royal treasury in search of an item to defeat the demon lord. He becomes jealous of Fleo's power and hears a girl's voice offering him power in exchange for freeing her. He quickly accepts the offer and a secret passage opens, revealing a sword. The magian of primordial light and darkness, Haya, appears and grants him 3 wishes. Meanwhile, in the castle, the princess meets the oracle Ashura, discussing the kingdom's peril and the need to find something to save them from the Dark Army. But suddenly strange collars appear around everyone's necks, causing panic. The princess then orders her men to go to the royal treasury to investigate. Ashura explains that they have been chosen as sacrifices for the Magian, who will behead them after granting a wish. The princess reveals that in the past, the Magian was summoned to eliminate the demon lord but caused destruction, leading to her sealing. Concerned about their fate, the princess asks Ashura to find a solution. But after doing her thing, Ashura suggests finding the true hero, who has already been summoned, likely located in the western part of the kingdom. Meanwhile, Fleo visits a merchant who admires the shield made with dragon scales Fleo brought. The merchant mentions someone also selling dragon meat in town, which Fleo confirms it was him. Impressed, the merchant agrees to buy Fleo's shield and requests for other items for sale, expressing interest in working together. There, Balirosa observes Fleo, impressed by his business skills, acknowledging he was a merchant before arriving in their world. Balirosa confessed her feelings for Fleo, but quickly retracted them, fearing that she might be hated by Fenris. But Fenris suggested finding someone similar to him instead and praised Cole's suitability as a partner for Balirosa despite her lingering fear of him due to his identity as the Demon Lord. Soon after, Fleo joined them, expressing gratitude to Balirosa for directing him to a profitable shield shop. As they prepared to head home, Fenris acknowledged Fleo's upcoming busy schedule, but expressed her desire to spend more time with him whenever he was free. However, their moment was abruptly interrupted by a warning from the system about the approach of a Magian. The Magian suddenly appeared before them, revealing that her goal was to eliminate Fleo. In a desperate attempt to protect Fleo, Haya launched an attack, only for Fenris to intervene and sustain a mortal wound herself. Realizing that conventional magic was ineffective against the Magian, Fleo prepared an advanced spell, only to discover that Fenris's injuries were too severe for traditional healing magic to be effective. Fueled by desperation and the fear of losing Fenris, Fleo unleashed a powerful spell, recalling memories of their shared moments together. Using his newfound strength, Fleo tapped into abilities he never knew he possessed, using a time reversal spell that saved Fenris' life. Haya is astonished by Fleo's sudden surge of power, knowing that humans are supposed to be weak. However, Fleo's demeanor changes drastically as he ruthlessly attacks her, ignoring her protests about her mastery of magic. Despite her attempts to fight back, Fleo's infinite stats and skills overpower her completely. Meanwhile, Fenris recovers from her injuries and learns that Fleo saved her. She witnesses Fleo's intense assault on Haya and initially admires his strength, believing he's doing it to protect her. However, she soon becomes troubled when she realizes that Fleo's behavior contradicts his usual rejection of violence, leading her to conclude that he has lost control. Haya, now fearing for her life, begs for mercy, but Fleo, driven by his anger for Fenris' injuries, begins to strangle her. Fenris suddenly intervenes, pleading with Fleo to stop, reminding him of his good heart and expressing her admiration for his kindness. Her words reach him, and he reluctantly spares Haya's life. Relieved, Fleo is overjoyed to see Fenris recovering, as he had feared she might not survive. Meanwhile, the princess and her group of mages are teleported to a forest. Grateful for their assistance despite their depleted magic, she orders the knights to care for them and sets off to find the true hero. But suddenly, their collars shatter and she realizes that the Magian has failed to grant the hero's wish. At the royal treasury, the guards confront the hero, demanding his surrender. Initially, Tsuya panics, fearing their execution, but a dark energy suddenly envelops her, followed by a voice revealing that the Magian has failed and claims to have another offering for the hero. The hero realizes something is wrong when Tsuya, now enveloped in dark energy, introduces herself as Damalinas. She uses magic to change her clothes and thanks the hero for freeing her. She then casts another spell, transforming the hero into a massive monster, which helps her to escape. Damalinas vows to punish the royal family for sealing her, noticing a teleportation circle indicating a royal member's escape, and decides to search outside. Back to the village, Haya finally regains consciousness and is surprised to find herself healed. Fleo then explains that he spared her because Fenris survived despite his initial anger. Balirosa is concerned about Haya's danger, suggesting they reseal her in the royal treasury. But Fleo reveals that he used a spell to look into Haya's memories and discover why she attacked them. This astonished her, as she was the only one capable of using the mind-reading spell. Suddenly, Fenris suggests letting Haya join their group, believing her powers could be useful. Initially, Fleo hesitates, reminding Fenris that he nearly killed Haya, but Fenris forgives Haya and blames herself for being weak. Fleo ultimately decides to accept Haya into the group on the condition that she refrains from harming others. Upon hearing Fleo's offer, Haya realizes that Fleo is unlike any human she has met and takes a liking to him, accepting him as her master. She looks forward to seeing what Fleo can accomplish with his powers and can't help but remember the intensity in his eyes when he was angry, feeling a strange thrill at the thought. Fenris, noticing Haya blushing, becomes jealous and quickly questions her. Fleo then contemplates using the time reversal spell to help the villagers by undoing the damage, but Haya warns him against it. She explains that the spell only moves time within a specified area and could cause unforeseen accidents if used on the entire village. She adds that humans aren't typically strong enough to use the spell, but Fleo is an exception due to his infinite stats and his ability to use total acquisition magic, which lets him learn the spells of those who attack him. This is why he can use the time reversal spell, but she still insists he shouldn't use it again. After hearing this, Fleo then decides to use a restoration spell instead. Later that day, Fleo returns home with Haya, who introduces herself to everyone, explaining that she will be living with them since she has nowhere else to go. Balerasa welcomes her and shows her to her room, but everyone else freaks out, thinking Haya is too dangerous to live with them. That evening, Balerasa talks to Fleo, who discloses to her that he is confused about what to do with his powers. Balerasa admits that she is also confused because she no longer knows who she should be fighting, having learned that everything she knew from the kingdom was a lie, and thanks Fleo for helping her discover the truth. Fleo then joins Fenris in their room, but she seems depressed and asks if he plans to return to his world, fearing he might use magic to leave her. Fleo reassures her that he isn't going anywhere because he wants to be with her and asks her to be his real wife. He tells her that he can't imagine living without her, and she admits her feelings for him as well. They start making out only to realize that Haya is in the room watching them. Haya reveals that she was watching the entire time, claiming it is her duty to look after her master. This angered Fleo and tells her not to spy on his private life, but Haya insists that mating is a natural behavior and there's no need to hide it. Fenris also becomes angry, and they start arguing while the other girls listen, realizing they are having a fight. Haya, however, offers to make herself invisible while she watches them, but they refuse, thinking that would be even worse. The scene then cuts to the princess asking around for Fleo in a store, asking whether the owner knows of an adventurer who can defeat magic beasts on his own. The owner states that he hasn't heard of anyone like that, and the princess leaves the store wondering where Fleo might be. Elsewhere, Fleo is having breakfast with the others, enjoying the delicious food prepared by Fenris with Haya's assistance. Haya then mentions that she could have used magic to cook, but Fenris preferred her help instead. Fenris considers it her duty to cook for her husband and his pack, offering Haya tasks like cleaning and laundry. Haya assures them she can do those chores in an instant, but the others become troubled, realizing they earn their keep by doing such tasks. If Haya takes over, they'll be left with nothing to contribute. Fleo notices the others' depressed mood and wonders what's wrong. The scene then shifts to Blossom working in the fields, determined not to lose to Haya when it comes to fieldwork. Fleo helps her out, and Byler reflects on her own role, feeling limited to raising horses rather than contributing more to the household. Meanwhile, Bellana reflects on her past as a knight's daughter and apologizes to her late father and brother for not becoming a royal mage like them. She's determined not to let Fleo's efforts go to waste and desires to become stronger, recalling the spells he taught her. Suddenly, they hear noise outside, and Milano and Byler investigate, finding a magic beast running amok in Blossom's fields. It tries to attack them, but Bellano defends using a barrier. Balerasa arrives and explains that the magic beast seemed docile at first, so she brought it there, but it suddenly went wild. Byleri then transforms Sibe into a rabbit and rides the magic beast to bring it under control, surprising the others with her ability to control magic beasts. Bellery, however, dismisses her ability of controlling the magic beast as nothing special and wonders if they can utilize the large area of land around. Balerosa then explains that the land belongs to the lord of the town, but they could potentially use it if they buy it. The scene then shifts to Fenris and Fleo alone in town, enjoying some rare alone time. Fenris is delighted, likening their outing to a date, though Fleo insists they're just there to sell armor. She playfully suggests they flirt as much as they want since they're a married couple now, and Fleo admits he's also happy to be with her. As Fleo sells some salamander skin armor, the shopkeeper notices its lightweight quality and suggests adding ornamentation to make it suitable for women. But suddenly, the entire town is engulfed in darkness as Damolinas appears from the sky with the hero now transformed into a monster. Fleo and Fenris notice the commotion and investigate, discovering the monster descending from the sky. He rushes to protect the townspeople, while Damolinas attacks the princess and her soldiers. Haya then arrives, sensing the evil presence, and informs Fleo that the monster is actually a human under the control of Damolinas, the Grand Magus of Midnight. She was once the strongest mage ruling over the Magic Kingdom, who had delved into forbidden black magic and was defeated by a hero in the past. In the past, Damolinas' consciousness lingered on even after her body was defeated, and she was sealed in the pedestal of the sword. Fenris blames the hero for releasing Damolinas, but Fleo allows Haya to take care of the situation, prioritizing the safety of the citizens. Meanwhile, a lone knight protects the princess from Damolinas' attack, but even he is terrified of her. Damolinas expresses her desire to see the princess's despair, but is interrupted by Haya, who is there to dispose of those who disturb her master. Despite Damolinas' attempts to harm Haya, her spells are ineffective against her. Damolinas then transforms the hero into an even bigger monster, threatening the town's destruction. but Fleo quickly intervenes, canceling Damalina's spell with his powers. Much to her disbelief, Haya, seizing the opportunity, turns Damalina's into a small red ball and restores the hero and Suya to normal. Haya then absorbs Damalina's into her psychic realm, assuring everyone that she will discipline her powers for Fleo's sake. Fenris acknowledges that Haya is starting to understand how things work in their world, signaling a newfound understanding and cooperation among the group. The princess then introduces herself to Fleo as Elizabeth Clyrode, a first princess of Clyrode, and expresses her gratitude for saving their kingdom from crisis. She apologizes on behalf of the king and the former hero for their problematic behavior. Elizabeth, however, asks Fleo to come to the castle as the true hero, believing it to be fate that they met. However, Fleo humbly declines, feeling unworthy of such a role and preferring his current peaceful lifestyle with his wife. Back at the house, the girls convene a meeting to discuss their plans. Bylary expresses her desire to expand their land to breed horse species of magic beasts, explaining that they need more space for this endeavor, followed by Blossom, who suggests increasing their fields to grow more vegetables, proposing to use magic beast carriers for transportation to ease Fleo's burden. However, Fenris doubts the feasibility of having beasts obey weak humans, suggesting normal horses instead. Bylary, however, argues that normal horses are expensive, but raising magic beasts in a spacious area will make them docile. Fleo agrees to negotiate with the Lord for more land, but expresses hesitation about letting the girls handle the finances, citing the high cost of the current land. He explains that the absence of demons in the area has driven up land prices. But despite their disbelief in the high costs, Fleo assures them that it's the right price due to the demon-free environment. The girls express concern that their savings from their time as knights won't be enough to buy the land, but Fleo reassures them that he'll purchase it for them. Fleo then proposes they repay him by managing the land, but the girls find the deal one-sided. He then suggests they pay him 30% of the profits from the land, which they agree to. The scene then shifts to Blossom plowing the new land, and Fenris and the others notice how content Blossom looks doing this compared to training. Fleo suggests Blossom grows something unique for the area to sell and offers to use his magic to control the climate. However, Blossom declines, preferring not to rely on magic and wanting to nurture her crops under the natural sun. Haya criticizes farming as inefficient and subject to climate change, but Blossom remains firm. Belano also shares that she decided to attend the College of Magic as a student, but got hired as a teacher instead, thanks to the spells Fleo taught her. Hearing this, the group congratulates her, and Belano highlights that magic can be used in everyday life, not just for combat. She encourages Blossom to consider Haya's suggestion, and Fleo proposes letting Haya use her magic on a small section of the field as a trial. Fleo then assures Blossom that she can decide whether the crops meet her standards, and she agrees to the offer. Haya uses her magic to grow vegetables while Bylary trains her magic beasts. Seeing everyone pursuing their passions, Fleo reflects on how amazing they all are, and Fenris expresses her happiness at the sight. Fleo soon shares his own aspiration of opening a store in this world someday. Hearing this, Fenris assures him of its success and pledges to promote it among her acquaintances. But they discuss the potential panic from demons visiting the town. However, Fenris suggests they disguise themselves as humans. She then promises to do anything for him, and Fleo gifts her a ring, declaring it their wedding ring as he wears a matching one. Fenris is delighted to receive it. Meanwhile, the hero and Suya find themselves imprisoned, facing execution if the hero doesn't intervene. Balirosa finds herself in a strange place dressed in a black wedding dress and is confused about her surroundings until Eulimenes appears, congratulating her on the occasion. Then the demon king, Gozel, himself also appears, praising her beauty and declaring that the demonic army will dedicate all its strength to dominate the world as a wedding gift to the couple. Despite her rejection, Gozel declares his love and kisses her, jolting her awake from the nightmare. She screams, wondering why she would dream of such a malicious creature in such a situation. During breakfast preparation, Fenris asks the girls if everything is okay. Balirosa then mentions that she has been having many nightmares lately. Fenris, however, suggests this might indicate that she is in love. As for her race, dreams are images of desire. The other girls immediately imagine the Demon King being attracted to Balirosa, noting how the Demon King always went home early whenever Balirosa wasn't around. However, Balirosa denies this, shouting that the Demon King must be waiting for the right moment to kill her because she raised her sword against him. They then also suggest that Balirosa might even be able to forge bonds between the two races, just like Fleo and Fenris did. The conversation eventually shifts to Fenris and Fleo's love story, as the girls have never heard it and want to hear it from Fenris. Initially, she hesitates, not knowing exactly how to tell their story, but she soon reflects on Fleo's character. Unlike the Lupines, who always solve everything with claws and teeth, Fleo is extremely generous and seems to always have his guard down. She thought that he needed to change his ways to survive in this world, but she eventually realized that being soft with him wasn't so bad after all. Suddenly, Fleo receives an alert about a detected anomaly in the magical barrier surrounding the city, which turns out to be Greenel, who notices Fleo's barrier. The next day, Elizabeth learns about the special gold coins recently donated by Fleo. She recalls him refusing to take sides in the war and giving her money to help rebuild the city. However, these special coins were not distributed to the general public. However, the Council recalls giving this type of coin to a young man named Banaza, who was mistakenly summoned to another world and then banished. This caused them to suspect that Banaza might be Fleo. Suddenly, news arrives that the former great hero and his servant have escaped from the dungeon. Elizabeth then orders a search for them and realizes the reason why Fleo didn't take on the title of hero. However, she acknowledges that dwelling on the past is futile, as she was the one who supported the golden-haired man for the role of the great hero. Meanwhile, soldiers search for the escaped man, with the hero blaming the Jinn for their situation. Suya, however, reminds him they were caught stealing from the castle, but the hero defends himself, stating it was a payment which he chose instead of the money supposedly owed by the kingdom. The hero soon opens a magic bag that he took on the way out and finds a chest, hoping for treasure to finance his escape, only to discover that it contains nothing but a shovel. The soldiers heard the voices nearby but found nothing behind the bushes. It turns out that the hero had used the shovel to dig a large hole in seconds, allowing them to hide. The problem now is how they will escape from the hole. Meanwhile, in the Demon King's castle, Euliminus informs Gozul that Fleo and his companions may have left the kingdom after extensive investigations failed to find him. Gozul believes that Fleo couldn't have teleported away, as teleportation requires familiarity with the destination, as Fleo just arrived in Clyrod recently. Euliminus then suggests that instead of focusing on finding Fleo, they should advance their army against the humans. Gozul, standing up, reminds her that Fleo can purify everything alone, making him a priority target. He gently touches Euliminus' head, apologizing for the recent trouble but maintaining that he won't sacrifice his comrades for conquest. Owen secretly spies on their conversation and reports back to Uigard, Gozul's brother. Uigard is fed up with Gozul's reluctance to attack and his plan to enlist a human in their army, as he believes a demon's duty is to destroy humanity, not ally with it. Uigard, angered by Gozul's leadership, decides to seize the throne for himself. He cannot tolerate his brother's approach and plans to overthrow him to ensure that demons fulfill their duty to eradicate humanity. Meanwhile, Fleo and Fenris stroll through Clyrod's market, purchasing exotic ingredients for new recipes Fenris wants to try. Despite Fleo's earlier detection of a potential violation, everything seems fine for now, so they continue their leisurely walk. Along the way, they encounter Mrs. Holdley closing her shop due to difficulties finding new suppliers after the recent battle against the Demon King's army disrupted transportation routes. This prompts Fenris to remark on the far-reaching effects of war, making her sad. Suddenly, Balirosa approaches the couple and offers to pay for their lunch, surprising Fenris, who worries their romantic lunch will be interrupted. However, Fleo accepts Balirosa's offer, seeing no issue with her joining them. Confused, Fenris questions Balirosa's sudden generosity, to which she explains that she rose in rank in the Adventurers Guild, leading to bigger rewards. She wants to show her appreciation for the support she's received from Fleo and Fenris. Suddenly, Haya alerts the presence of a being with immense magical power approaching, and Gozul appears once again looking for Fleo. Fast forward a few minutes, he joins them at the lunch table, explaining that he came after detecting strange magic in the area. He expresses his interest in speaking to Balirosa, prompting her to wonder if her dreams are prophetic. As they enjoy a wonderful fried fish, Gozul marvels at humanity's culinary skills, reminiscing about his observations of humans before inheriting the throne. He acknowledges the vast difference between human and demon cuisine, asking Balirosa whether she's a good cook. Balirosa, however, nervously responds that she's great at making sweets, while Fleo notes Gozul's deep interest in humanity. Gozul then explains that his fascination is partly strategic, as the prosperity of a culture is tied to its military power. This angered Balirosa, as she sees it as a way to keep an eye on his enemies, prompting Gozul to explain the genetic conflict between humans and demons. He reveals that demons' bodies produce militium, a harmful substance, and controlling aggression is difficult due to their love for meritocracy and combat. Apologizing for any inconvenience, Gozul leaves, leaving everyone pensive about the revelations. On the way back home, Fleo reflects on how he was happy when he first arrived, as he saw that there was no discrimination here. However, today, Fleo realizes the huge problem between demons and humans is larger than anything in his old world. He suddenly hugs Fenris tightly, seeking comfort from her to calm his mind. Meanwhile, Suya and the former great hero struggle to climb out of the hole, with Suya's disoriented magic causing the hero to fall back in. The scene then cuts to Fleo and the others at home, enjoying food prepared by Fenris. They praise the meal, noting that it's even more delicious than those at the town's restaurant. Balarosa compliments Fenris on her cooking skills, to which Fenris thanks her, attributing her improvement to her teacher Melino. Fleo then asks if she's still attending cooking classes, and Fenris explains that she recently visited Melino to thank her for the lessons that helped her win her husband's heart. Melino congratulated her and offered to teach her family meals, including dishes that children love. Balarosa teases that having a child is a possibility now that Fenris and Fleo are married. At that moment, Princess Elizabeth arrives at Fleo's house. Puzzled, Fleo reiterates that he isn't interested in being a hero. However, Elizabeth explains that she's here to apologize and reveals that she knows that Fleo is Banaza. They then move to a private room to talk, where Balarosa serves the princess tea. Elizabeth asks the others to leave, but Fenris insists on staying due to the kingdom's poor treatment of her husband. Supporting Fenris' decision, Fleo stated that if Elizabeth can't discuss the matter in front of Fenris, she should leave. Elizabeth agrees and apologizes again for the wrongs done to Fleo by her kingdom, particularly the spell on his bottomless bag and his exile. Fleo, however, tells her to not apologize, emphasizing that it won't change anything as he is just a normal merchant now. He urges her to get to the point, and Elizabeth shows him a magic map indicating the positions of the Clyrod army. Each golden mark represents an enchanted stone carried by a battalion leader. Fleo questions why she's showing him such sensitive information, but Elizabeth explains that the purification effect around the castle town will soon wear off, and the Dark Army will resume their invasion. However, their mages have yet to recover their magic. To leverage the geographical advantage, the army plans to reposition their troops, which will leave some towns completely vulnerable. Elizabeth then asks Fleo to protect the vulnerable towns, acknowledging that she cannot ask him to be their hero right now. Fenris, angered by Elizabeth's request, accuses her of selfishness and insists she won't allow her husband to be dragged into a war. Elizabeth clarifies that the bedridden king, weakened by the purification, will soon wake up and likely send an army after Fleo for conspiring with the demons. Fenris takes this as a threat, but Elizabeth assures her it isn't. As the acting ruler of Clyrod, Elizabeth has the authority to force the king to pay for his crimes of disgracing the true hero and appointing a false one. She humbly asks for Fleo's help, stating that the king has protected their kingdom but often discarded those in need, explaining that she plans to take his place to save her people and needs to demonstrate her ability to command the army effectively. Fenris, still angry, accuses Elizabeth of using Fleo to solidify her role, but Fleo intervenes, asking Fenris to calm down. He explains that Elizabeth merely seeks a guarantee that he won't join the Dark Army, which Elizabeth confirms. However, Fenris remains confused, so Fleo clarifies that Elizabeth showed him vital information to ensure he stays quiet and doesn't cause trouble. She never counted him among her forces. Elizabeth admits she doesn't want to abandon the towns and acknowledges that sharing this information with Fleo could be seen as a sign of trust, pleading for his help once more. The scene then shifts to adventurers searching for the blonde hero, hoping to claim the reward on his head. They can't find him, and we see the hero and Suya hiding behind some bushes. Suya, exhausted from their recent escape from the hole, complains about having to run again. Suddenly, her stomach growls, and she admits she is hungry. The hero then gives her some bread, reassuring her that it's fine to eat them despite their limited supplies. The hero questions why she's still following him, with Suya asking the same question. She then mentions that she liked the cool sigh he showed while unlocking her cell, and that she's happy that the hero hasn't abandoned a burden like her. But suddenly, a spider controlled by Fufun binds the hero and Suya, who declares them as suitable sacrifices. Meanwhile, Fleo and Fenris lie in bed discussing the princess's offer. She asks whether Fleo is considering it. He admits he dislikes fighting, but can't ignore the towns in danger. He reflects on his purpose in this world and dreams of a future where humans and demons coexist, especially if they have children someday. The scene shifts to a village under threat from approaching demons. Most of the villagers evacuate, but a young girl is left behind. As demons try to approach her, Fleo and Fenris arrive to save her, erecting a barrier and telling the girl to escape. Fenris comments on Fleo for taking this task without compensation, and Fleo explains that accepting a reward might make people think he was bought by humans. He admits that by listening to the princess, he has already yielded to her request. But Fenris fears that Fleo might potentially become the princess's husband, mentioning that some demons have multiple wives. But Fleo reassures her that he won't be marrying the princess. One of the demons questions why a Lupin like Fenris sides with humans, but Fleo states they are protectors of the town and warns the demons to leave or face consequences. However, the demons underestimate him, thinking he's just a human, But suddenly, a Cyclops arrives, attempting to break through the barrier. Fenris explains to Fleo that Cyclops are the most powerful tribe in the Dark Army and are servants of Uagard. Initially, the Cyclops mocks her, mentioning that her brother, one of the Infernal Four, was too weak to avoid death. Fenris, determined to defend her brother's honor and her tribe's reputation, asks Fleo to let her handle the Cyclops. She acknowledges her brother's defeat but can't tolerate their race being belittled. Fleo permits her to fight but instructs her not to kill him. She then steps out of the barrier and dodges the Cyclops' attacks before biting the Cyclops in several places. She remarks that defeating him without killing will be challenging, noting that her old self would have finished him off quickly. However, she has learned to hold back. Using a spell, she leaps high into the air, shifting positions with the Cyclops mid-flight. The Cyclops, still determined, throws his club at Fenris, who once again shifts positions with him, causing the Cyclops to hit himself. Taking advantage of this opening, Fenris pins him down using trees and offers him a chance to retreat. The Cyclops, furious at being outsmarted, orders the other demons to attack Fenris, but Fleo swiftly restrains them all. Fenris then remarks that she could have handled them alone, but Fleo insists that the duel is over, and there's no need for further violence. Fleo heals the Cyclops and urges him to retreat with his army, emphasizing that he wishes to coexist peacefully with demons. The Cyclops questions Fleo's identity, and Fleo asserts himself as a human with a unique connection to demons, hoping for understanding but ready to oppose them if necessary. Reluctantly, the demons retreat and Fleo removes the barrier. Fenris compliments Fleo on his demeanor during the encounter, noting the effectiveness of their training. However, Fenris expresses concern that the demons may return unless they're threatened more forcefully. But as some villagers arrive with the girl Fleo saved, they express gratitude, wondering about the wolf accompanying him. Fleo reassures them that Fenris is his trusted partner. The little girl thanks Fleo and Fenris for saving her, and Fenris expresses relief that she wasn't hurt. Fleo informs the villagers that they are acting on behalf of the first princess and encourages them to thank her instead. After they leave, a soldier reports to the princess about a mysterious adventurer who has been driving away the Dark Army from various regions. The adventurer, always wearing a wolf-like mask and accompanied by a silver wolf, has garnered gratitude from many regions but never seeks payment. The minister deduces that this adventurer is Fleo and instructs everyone to assist him if they encounter him. The princess is grateful for Fleo's efforts and resolves to repay him somehow. Meanwhile, Fleo continues to repel another squad of the demon army. Gozel, observing these events, realizes that Uagard is acting without his orders. Greedle informs Gozel that Uagard has initiated a coup and seized the throne room. Uagard, confident in his plan, asks Fufun if the preparations are complete. Fufun confirms that they are and mentions securing a pair of sacrifices. They plan to deploy a special ritual to borrow the power of the evil god, believing that even Gozel cannot win against such power. The next day, Gozel and Eulimenes arrive at Fleo's house, and the demon lord asks to stay there for a while. Initially, neither Fleo nor Fenris can believe he's serious, but turns out there's a compelling reason behind the request. Days earlier, Greenel had informed Gozel about Uagard's invasion of the throne room, causing turmoil among the demons. They're the four infernals of the demon lord's army. Eulimenes, Yorman, Hugi, and Mugi discuss the conflict. Eulimenes was the only one who refused to stand idle in the face of betrayal, while Yorman, Hugi, and Mugi preferred not to interfere, believing Gozel needed to see the consequences of his decisions. Sleep, however, believed Gozel was the rightful ruler and needed to assert his command. The four infernals then headed to the throne room, where they were greeted by Fufun, where Eulimenes attempted to attack Uagard but only succeeded in breaking her own claw, leading Uagard to punch her effortlessly. Despite Eulimenes' best efforts, she couldn't land a decisive blow and Fufun mocked her, but before she could eliminate Eulimenes, Gozel appeared, accompanied by Greenel. Uagard immediately challenged Gozel to a duel for the throne, but Gozel had no interest in fighting. Uagard accused his brother of losing control and making senseless decisions, such as frequently visiting a human city for indulgence and withdrawing the army from enemy borders when victory was within reach. Listening to these accusations, Gozel asked if Uagard had sent the army without his permission, and he admitted to doing so, believing Gozel's reluctance to conquer the humans showed his weakness. Gozel then asked the Infernals if they agreed to this, and their silence provides the answer. Faced with this reality, Gozel sees no other choice but to display his power. But to everyone's surprise, Gozel relinquishes ownership of the demon ring to his brother, announcing his retirement as Demon King. Uagard thinks he's being mocked, but Gozel makes it clear that if everyone thinks he's unworthy of the position, there's no point in remaining on the throne. Furious, the younger demon refuses to accept that his brother would suddenly turn his back after giving up the fight. He then lunges at Gozel, who, with just one kick, sends Uagard through all layers of the castle walls until he's thrown outside. Afterward, Gozel apologizes to his servants for disappointing them all and leaves. Taking advantage of the distraction, the great hero plans to flee once and for all. After hearing the whole story, Fleo warns that he needs to hear the opinion of all the residents before accepting the visitors. The first of them is Balarosa, who arrives excited to talk about today's hunt until she sees Gozel sitting on the couch and gets a fright. Fleo takes advantage of the warrior's arrival to ask what she thinks of those two staying at the house, but the woman is so terrified she can't respond. Sometime later, they all gather in the living room to discuss the matter. Although none of the four seem very happy with the idea, Gozel tries to calm things down by revealing that he's no longer the demon king, having relinquished the throne and the army. When faced with the girl's surprise, he concludes that it no longer makes sense to live in the demon lands after everything that happened, so he turned to the only people he can call friends. Blossom then argued that the enemy army was attacking Clyro just a few days ago, but Fenris explains that they were under the command of Yoingard, Gozel's rebellious brother and the new Dark Lord. Bilano asks if the two will stay there like that time when the demon was making tea, and he answers yes. However, Euliminus makes it clear that this doesn't change the fact that they are demons and scares the girls, forcing Fleo to calm the feline down. Despite everything said, Fenris doesn't understand how the former demon king could have nowhere to go. But Euliminus explains that Gozel gave all his gold to the demons who also left the army, as he believes if it hadn't been for them, the damage suffered by the army would have been much greater, so they deserve this reward. Euliminus argues that it is this lack of firmness that causes so much discord among the servants. However, he recalls taking the throne from his father due to not agreeing with his leadership. Considering that he no longer has the support of the people to continue with the crown, it makes sense to hand it over. Nevertheless, the former leader can still act in some ways even away from the throne, just as Fleo did by stopping the enemy advances by infiltrating the borders as an unknown adventurer. Soon, Fleo informs the other residents that he and his wife don't mind allowing the two visitors to stay and asks what they think about it. Blossom doesn't have the courage to refuse since she also lives on the favor, while Bilary mentions that the two pledge not to harm anyone. Delano also mentions that she only cares about the former demon lord making tea, and Haya assures that she will be the sword and shield of the supreme being in case anything goes out of control. Belirosa asks if everyone there is crazy for letting the demon who was once a king and his loyal servant live there, but with a pleading face, Fenris questions if the knight really wants her to kick out her former boss and colleague now that they've lost their home. Stive also gives the girl 2 pats to affirm that she also agrees with the visitor staying, adding even more pressure on her. Soon, with no way out, she ends up accepting, making Fenris celebrate the possession of the greatest force of demons within the house. The next day, already a resident of the property, Gozel offers to help Blossom on the farm, but the woman refuses. Then he asks Bilary if she wants help training the horses, since he has a lot of experience with magical beasts, but the power emanating from the demon scares the animals, so the trainer asks the guy not to interfere. Later, he meets Fleo and his small arsenal of weapons and armor that the human manufactures to sell. Seeing the plaque made of dragon scale that belonged to his aerial unit, Gozel considers that using the winner and using the loser as sustenance is how the world works. Furthermore, the aggression came from the demonic side, so Fleo doesn't need to feel guilty. Noticing that the scales have several stored spells, Gozel presumes that the demons will need a big plan when facing an army of humans dressed in that type of armor. Hearing the conversation, Euliminus comments that her master seems much happier now than on the throne, and she doesn't know how to feel about it. That night, everyone shares a stew by the campfire and begins to bond, but Balarosa remains isolated in a corner. After dinner, all the girls fall asleep, but the warrior remains awake, looking at the stars. But suddenly, Fenris appears with some herbal tea and cookies because she noticed that Balarosa didn't eat anything. Furthermore, the Lupin had noticed that her friend seemed depressed and came to check on her. Fleo then apologizes for seemingly forcing Balarosa to live with the demons and offers to talk to her. However, she acknowledges that she has no right to refuse being a resident by favor and admits she was just surprised to see all her friends accepting so quickly. Fleo then emphasizes that he loves the life he leads now, where he sells equipment made from materials of beasts they themselves hunt, everyone eating the vegetables that Blossom and Side cultivated on the farm, and Bilary taking care of the animals while Bolano and Haya study magic. Although his intention is to highlight teamwork and the strong bonds among the residents, Balarosa feels like an outsider in this whole environment. Regarding the demons, deep down she knows they can interact and feel things like humans, and they also consider humans as aggressors. Even so, she can't accept this fact because despite being a rookie who has never been on a battlefield, she has seen hundreds of comrades lost by demonic hands. So even though Gozel doesn't seem like a bad person, she can't share a roof with him since the memories of soldiers killed by demons will never disappear. Fleo understands that the knight feels this way but points out that the two came to look for this house out of necessity. Finally, Fenris would like to know if Bellerosa also feels this repulsion towards her, considering that she was also part of the demonic army, mentioning that when she was on the enemy side, she wanted to feed her soldiers with her flesh, which shocked Bellerosa as she doesn't know how to react to this information since she has always seen her as an innocent and vulnerable girl. Fenris then reminds her that it was Bellerosa who taught her to make these cookies, as she's not as useless as she thinks. The next day, Bellerosa approaches Gozel and Eulimenes, warning them that if they harm the humans in any way, she will make them regret it. Gozel understands from this speech that the woman has accepted them as residents even though she made it clear she will keep an eye on them. However, Eulimenes questions what a useless knight who was trembling all yesterday can do against them. She then tells the feline to shut up and mentions her loss to Fleo, angering Eulimenes. Witnessing this, Gozel laughs in the middle of the argument and soon approaches Bellerosa, extending his hand in gratitude for being accepted. However, she makes it clear that she will only shake the demon's hand when he proves himself trustworthy. Meanwhile, the great hero flees the demon territory, full of jewels he borrowed from the treasure room, but a mysterious shadow seems to be on the tail of the fugitives. Thank you for watching the 10th episode's recap of this anime. If you enjoyed this video and want more of it, go ahead and hit that like button down below and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Let's grow this community into a huge one and help us reach the goal of hitting 5,000 subscribers.